Welcome to Unmuted. And this is probably the first time we've had an in-studio guest, and how wonderful that it is someone who is an investigative reporter. She is a Fox News contributor and the host of the wildly popular podcast, The Sara Carter Show. So, Sara Carter.
I'm so excited, Senator, to be here. I mean, I haven't been back in DC, well, in a week, it seems like, but I've lived here for so long, and now living in Texas and coming back, it's great to be. It feels like home to me, believe it or not.
Well, we're happy to have you here.
Well,
We
thank
always
you.
love it when we see good conservatives and people that know how to give you the news and not the opinion.
Right.
And
Right.
when we have them come in, let's talk a little bit about Biden's border. You have done some incredible reporting on what's happening at the border and the lax policies that are in place down there. And I had pulled a stat here. This year, this fiscal year,
Right.
which is going to end the end of September, we have had so far 143 known terrorists that have been apprehended at that southern border. Now, those are the ones that we know about.
Right.
So talk a little bit about the border, what you have seen down there, and the Border Patrol, and the effect that they have when they're apprehending these terrorists, people you should be, that are out there on the battlefield, but you don't expect them to walk up to you saying asylum at the southern border.
Well, and that's what they usually try to skirt that. They usually try to make their way around the Border Patrol and law enforcement.
Gotaways.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. They want to be gotaways. Senator, when I first started covering the border, and this is maybe nearly 20 years ago, I was talking to U.S. intelligence officials and DEA as well, also Western officials that were covering terrorism. And we knew even back then, right, after September 11th, the dangers that we were facing and the wide open border. And I would remember Washington, D.C., the bureaucracy, dealing with then the DEA senior officials and the senior officials in the DHS that would say, you're an alarmist. Even if I had evidence of it and testimony from sources and whistleblowers, oh, this is alarmist. There's no way that terrorists will use the border to come into the United States. I would say, how could you be so sure about it? It's a wide open space. It's an open border. We have roughly 2,000 miles of border with Mexico, southern border. Mexico is a pseudo-narco state, meaning that the government can't even control always what is happening inside the country because the cartels are running operations. And even though the Mexican government, there are some amazing, wonderful human beings there that are doing their best, they are also under the pressure of billion-dollar organizations. And you just asked me, how do I feel about the border right now? There's over 143 apprehensions. These are people that have clicked positive in databases, either Interpol database or the US database on people connected to terrorism. What about the people that have not committed an act yet, or the ones that we haven't fingerprinted or ID'd yet? How many of those have come in, like you said, as the gotaways, part of the gotaways that are in our country? Could they be planning an attack? Could there be a cell? Yes, very likely. The probability that terrorists are living in the United States right now in secret, unbeknownst to our FBI, that appeared to be spend more time defending and trying to protect the Bidens than actually going after. And I feel, and this is, I'm talking the senior level officials, than going after what we have seen at the border is, I believe 100%. I believe with 100% certainty, or I could say 99.9% certainty, based on the intelligence officials that I'm talking to, that someone's in here. I was with Senator Cruz briefly at the border the other day in Laredo, and I spoke to some Border Patrol senior officials who were saying that, and this is the last part of your question, that their morale is down, that they feel like the government has abandoned them. Suicide rates among Border Patrol officials is up. This is a real devastating effect, not only on the people that live on the border, but it ripples across the United States. And we've seen our children dying. We've seen the control of the cartels. I am, after 20 years of covering this, I'm frustrated. I'm a bit jaded.
Yeah.
When is it going to change? And only people like you, Senator, and others that are standing up for Americans' rights and trying to put a stop to this are going to be the effective change in making a difference. But with a Biden administration refusing to act, it's very disheartening.
Well, and you talked a little bit, and let's go back to this about the cartels and Mexico being a pseudo-narco state, and
Right.
because of the cartels. And what we've learned is not only are the cartels transferring drugs
Correct.
into the US, drugs that are manufactured by Chinese
Right.
scientists, but they also are trafficking human beings.
That's right.
And we know that human trafficking was about a $500 million a year business
Right.
as recently as 2019. And now it's, according to DHS, it's become $150 billion a year business. And Tennessee Bureau of Investigation gave us a stat. Every 2 minutes in this country, a child is sold for sex.
That's
And of
just,
course, much of this happens on the border. What are you seeing as you're down on the border so regularly with the human trafficking?
it's horrible. I mean, July 30th is World International Day, however you want to say it, against human trafficking. It's so that we recognize what is happening in our modern day. In this modern age, we should not have human slavery. We should not be selling children to the most nefarious, horrific monsters on planet Earth. Every single parent, every single American should be fighting to save these children's lives. This wide open border is a cesspool for these horrible human beings to bring children into our country that are going to be abused, that are going to be lost in the system. Some of the things that I've seen and that I know have happened to these children are unspeakable. I won't even talk about it on your show because I wish I didn't have to live with those thoughts in my own head. My youngest is 10 years old. She's a beautiful little girl. And I just talked to a woman who was taken from Ecuador at the age of 12 years old. At the age of 12, she was brought to the United States and abused for 21 years of her life, forced into servitude, forced to have children with an older man, living in the United States of America, in the land of the free. This shouldn't be happening. You talked about the cartels. Just this past week, they found a mass grave in Reynosa. I want people to think about this. This is just across the border from McAllen, Texas. 27 people in one of the mass graves that were uncovered, butchered. They found pieces of them everywhere. 27 human beings butchered and left in a mass grave. Some of those people as recently as 3 weeks ago. This is what is going on at our border. We have a war zone, and we have opened up, basically have turned the cartels and the human traffickers, as you so rightly put it, into the middlemen for our immigration system. How is it possible that that's happening? And how is it possible that children, some as young as 7 years old, are being, maybe 5, maybe 2, maybe we've seen those ages vary, being trafficked into the United States and sold here. We do know that over 85,000 children our Health and Human Services have lost.
They've lost them, can't find them.
Can't find them.
Don't know any of their condition. And as we talk about Anti-Human Trafficking Day and putting that attention on it globally, I think it is just so vitally important for us to realize the cartels are global organizations. They're active in 176 different countries. And it is imperative that in order to address the humanitarian crisis, whether it's the human trafficking, the drug trafficking, the drugs in our communities that are killing tens of thousands of Americans, and that we secure the southern border in order to protect our nation's sovereignty. Well, you've been a great guest as always.
Thank you so
And
much
keep
for
up
having
with
me.
her. You'll find her online at Sara Carter DC. And as always, thank you for joining Unmuted with Marsha.